Admiral Zexon clicked his mandibles in satisfaction as he watched the blue marble spinning lazily on his command display. Earth, such a pretty little planet. So peaceful. So vulnerable. Sir, his communications officer, Vree, turned from her station with barely contained excitement. The humans have responded to our ultimatum. Already, Zexon's eyes widened. But we only transmitted it 6 hours ago. Usually these primitive species take days to grovel properly. The bridge of the Galactic Supremacy Council's flagship buzzed with anticipation. Hundreds of crew members from dozens of species had gathered to witness this historic moment. Another world would bow before their might. Another victory to add to their glorious record. "Put on the main screen," Zexon commanded, straightening his ceremonial battle armor. The image flickered to life, revealing a middle-aged human male sitting behind a simple wooden desk. The being appeared unremarkable. No impressive fangs, no natural weapons, no intimidating size. Just ordinary. "Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Supremacy Council," the human began, his voice calm and measured. "I am President Chun of the United Earth Federation. We have reviewed your demands for our immediate surrender and the enslavement of our species." A ripple of laughter swept through the bridge. Several officers made crude jokes about the human's appearance. "Our response is as follows," President Chin continued, and something in his eyes shifted. Something cold. Something dangerous. "Go to hell." The laughter stopped abruptly. Chin leaned forward slightly. "Furthermore, we hereby declare that any Galactic Supremacy Council vessel found within our solar system will be considered an act of war. You have 24 hours to withdraw all forces beyond the orbit of Pluto, or we will demonstrate exactly why you should have done your homework before threatening humanity." The transmission ended. For a moment, the bridge was completely silent. Then someone snorted. Then another. Soon the entire command deck erupted in hysterical laughter. Did that tiny creature just threaten US? Lieutenant Gorax wheezed between chuckles. "With what army?" Security Chief Bryn gasped, wiping tears from her 6 eyes. "Their primitive chemical rockets? Their adorable little nuclear weapons." Admiral Zexon raised a hand for silence, though his own mandibles were still twitching with amusement. "Gentlemen, ladies, and various other gender configurations, it appears we have encountered a species with a terminal case of stupidity." More laughter. "Sir," Tactical Officer Krun spoke up, his voice still shaking with mirth, "our intelligence reports indicate they have barely achieved interplanetary travel. Their most advanced warships are essentially tin cans with engines. And their population?" Zexon asked, already knowing the answer. "Approximately 8 billion, sir, compared to our alliance of 400 billion across 57 worlds. Their technology level? Nuclear age, sir. They've only just begun experimenting with fusion power. No energy shields, no faster-than-light weapons, no gravitational manipulation." Zexon nodded sagely. "So let me understand this correctly. A species that hasn't even figured out proper space travel, with a population less than 2% of our own, using technology our ancestors abandoned 10,000 years ago, just declared war on the most powerful alliance in galactic history." "That appears to be the situation, sir." "Fascinating." Zexon's mandibles clicked in what his species considered a grin. "It's almost endearing, isn't it? Like watching a small pet challenge a battlecruiser." The bridge crew erupted in fresh waves of laughter. "Sir," Communications Officer re-interrupted. "We're receiving another transmission from Earth. Multiple sources this time." "Oh, this should be good," Zexon chuckled. "Put it through. Let's see how quickly they've come to their senses." Instead of President Chun, the screen now showed a split display featuring multiple humans. A woman in military uniform, an elderly man in a white coat, and several others. "This is General Martinez of United Earth Defense Command." The woman began crisply. "To whoever's listening on those big, ugly ships polluting our solar system, I have a simple message. My grandmother always told me that the best way to deal with bullies is to punch them in the nose. Hard. We're about to give you the biggest bloody nose in galactic history." The elderly scientist adjusted his glasses. "Dr. Nakamura here. I'd like to thank you for giving us such a wonderful opportunity to field test some of our more creative projects. We've been working on some fascinating applications of quantum mechanics that we're just dying to show someone. Another voice joined in, this one with a distinct southern accent. Colonel Jackson, United Earth Marine Corps. Boys, you just made the biggest mistake of your lives. We've been spoiling for a good fight ever since we ran out of wars to fight each other. Thanks for volunteering. One by one, more humans appeared on screen. Scientists, soldiers, politicians, even what appeared to be civilian volunteers, all delivering the same message with varying degrees of politeness and creativity. But the core sentiment remained unchanged. Humanity was not surrendering. The final speaker was a young woman who couldn't have been more than 25. Jessica Wong, doctoral candidate in applied physics at MIT. I just wanted to say thanks for the motivation. I've been stuck on my dissertation for months, but your ultimatum just gave me the perfect excuse to weaponize my research. This is going to be so much fun. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Sir, Vree said quietly, there are more incoming transmissions. Hundreds of them. Individual humans, groups, organizations, all with similar messages. Zexon stared at the blank screen for a long moment. In his 40 years of military service, he had overseen the conquest of 17 worlds. Not once had an entire species responded to a surrender demand with what could only be described as enthusiastic defiance. Show me their defensive positions, he ordered. The main display shifted to a tactical overview of the Sol system. Red dots marked the positions of human military installations and spacecraft. There weren't many, a few orbital platforms around Earth. Some mining operations in the asteroid belt. A small research station near Jupiter. That's it, Zexon asked. That's everything we can detect, sir. Their total military strength? Perhaps 50 vessels of various sizes. None larger than a light cruiser by our standards. And they want to fight us. Us. Zexon gestured at the display, showing his own fleet. 300 capital ships. 2,000 escort vessels. Enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. It would seem so, sir. Admiral Zexon made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his very short remaining life. Very well. If these humans want to play at war, we'll give them exactly what they're asking for. All vessels, prepare for immediate assault on Earth. Let's put these primates out of their misery quickly. Sir, his strategic advisor Kelm spoke up hesitantly. Perhaps we should study them more carefully first? Their response is unusual. Most species show fear when faced with overwhelming odds. Advisor Kelm, Zexon replied with the patience one might use with a slow child. They're humans. Primitive, aggressive, short-lived mammals who haven't even figured out proper space travel yet. What could they possibly do to us? As if summoned by his words, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Sir, sensor operator Finn's voice cracked with panic. I'm detecting massive energy surges throughout the Sol system. From where? Everywhere, sir. Every asteroid, every moon, every piece of space debris bigger than a pebble is lighting up like a star. On the tactical display, the previously empty space around Earth suddenly bloomed with thousands of new contacts. Energy signatures that made no sense. Power readings that shouldn't be possible. What in the name of the void? Zexon whispered. The answer came in the form of another transmission from Earth. This time it was a different human. An elderly woman sitting in what appeared to be a rocking chair, knitting something that might have been a sweater. Hello, dearies, she said in a grandmotherly voice that somehow managed to sound absolutely terrifying. Margaret Thompson here, former head of the Manhattan Project's Theoretical Physics Division. You know, the project that figured out how to split atoms? Well, I'm 87 years old now, and I've had a lot of time to think about bigger and better ways to split things. She held up her knitting, and Zexon realized it wasn't a sweater at all. It was a complex three-dimensional mathematical model. This little pattern represents what we call a cascading dimensional fracture. Nasty stuff, really. Tears holes in the fabric of space-time itself. We've been seeding your flight path with tiny versions for the past 6 months, ever since our deep space monitoring stations detected your fleet approaching. The old woman smiled sweetly. You see, boys, we knew you were coming. We know about your Galactic Supremacy Council. We know about your conquest record. We know exactly what you do to species that resist." She set down her knitting and leaned forward, her eyes suddenly sharp as laser beams. "What you don't know about us is that we've been preparing for this meeting for the better part of a century. Ever since we first detected artificial signals from deep space, we've been working under a single assumption, that any species capable of interstellar travel would be hostile. We've spent decades developing weapons and strategies specifically designed to fight technologically superior enemies." Margaret Thompson stood up from her chair, and somehow a sweet old lady becoming more terrifying than any warrior Zexon had ever faced. "You want to know the difference between humans and every other species you've conquered?" she asked. "Every other species you faced had something to lose. Governments to preserve, populations to protect, infrastructure to maintain." Her smile widened, showing perfectly ordinary teeth that nevertheless seemed predatory. "We don't. The moment you transmitted that ultimatum, every human government on Earth activated something we call the Scorched Galaxy Protocol. We're not trying to save our civilization, gentlemen. We're not trying to preserve our way of life. We have exactly one goal now." The display behind her shifted to show tactical readouts that made Zexon's blood run cold. "We're going to kill every single one of you. And if that means turning our entire solar system into a weapon, if that means sacrificing everything we've ever built, if that means fighting you with our bare hands in the vacuum of space, well." Margaret Thompson picked up her knitting again, her voice returning to that gentle, grandmotherly tone that was somehow 1,000 times more frightening than any battle cry. "That just means it's going to be more fun." The transmission ended. In the silence that followed, Admiral Zexon began to understand that he made a terrible mistake. The humans weren't surrendering. They weren't even trying to negotiate. They were going to fight. And from the look of those energy readings spreading throughout their solar system like a virus of pure destruction, they had been planning this fight for a very, very long time. "Sir," Communications Officer Ria's voice was barely a whisper. "New transmission incoming. It's from every human settlement simultaneously." "Put it through," Zexon said, though he was beginning to suspect he really didn't want to hear it. 8 billion voices spoke as one. "Welcome to Earth. Enjoy your stay. It's going to be your last." Admiral Zexon had exactly 37 seconds to contemplate the magnitude of his error before the humans struck. It began with what his sensors registered as a simple gravitational anomaly near the third planet. Nothing threatening, just a minor distortion in space-time, barely detectable unless you knew exactly where to look. Then space folded. Evasive maneuvers. Zexon screamed as reality twisted itself into a pretzel around his flagship, the forward section of the inevitable victory, a dreadnought that had personally overseen the destruction of 6 civilizations, simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized. It just wasn't there anymore. "Report!" he barked as emergency klaxons wailed throughout the ship. "Sir, we've lost decks 1 through 15. Tactical Officer Crun's voice cracked with panic. "But, sir, they're not damaged. They're just gone." The hull sealed itself perfectly, like those sections were never there. Captain Urian of the destroyer Galactic Supremacy screamed over the Fleet Communications channel. "Admiral, my ship just turned inside out. Half my crew is embedded in the bulkheads, and they're still alive." Through the chaos, Admiral Zexon tried to process what was happening. His fleet, the most powerful armada in known space, was being systematically dissected by forces that shouldn't exist. Energy readings spiked off every scale. Gravitational waves pulsed through space in patterns that violated every law of physics he knew. And through it all, the humans kept talking. "This is Dr. Sarah Chun, Particle Physics Division," came a cheerful voice over the Universal Communications frequency. "The weapon you just experienced is what we call a dimensional editor. It simply removes unwanted portions of reality and tidies up the remaining bits. We've been working on it since 2157, right after we figure out how to fold space." Another voice joined in, male this time, with what Zexon's universal translator identified as an Australian accent. "Dr. Mitchell here, Quantum Weaponry Department. That inside-out thing? Yeah, that's a Mobius field generator. Turns 3-dimensional objects into 4-dimensional sculptures. We thought it might be amusing." Amusing? Zexon sputtered. A third voice, this one belonging to a young woman who sounded far too excited about the circumstances. Dr. Rebecca Martinez, Theoretical Warfare Institute. Admiral, you're about to experience our latest breakthrough in aggressive physics. We call it the causality inverter. Before Zexon could ask what that meant, his ship lurched violently. On the main display, he watched in horror as laser blasts fired from his own vessels curved through space and struck their own hulls. Energy weapons reversed course mid-flight. Missile barges performed impossible U-turns. "How are you doing this?" he demanded. "Oh, it's quite simple, really," Dr. Martinez replied with the enthusiasm of someone discussing her favorite hobby. "We just convinced space-time that cause and effect were boring and should try something new. Your weapons now hit yourselves before you fire them. Fascinating temporal mechanics involved. The battle, if it could even be called that, continued with increasing impossibility. Human weapons violated every known law of physics with casual indifference. Zexon watched his fleet encounter. Gravity bombs that made ships implode into themselves before expanding into geometric shapes that hurt to look at. Entropy missiles that aged targeted vessels 10,000 years in 10 seconds, leaving behind clouds of rust and regret. Probability mines that ensured every random event in a 50-kilometer radius resulted in catastrophic system failures. "This is impossible." Zexon raged. "Your technology level indicates you should be millennia away from this kind of capability." General Martinez appeared on screen, her uniform now covered in what appeared to be engine grease and someone else's blood. "Oh, Admiral, you sweet summer child. Did you really think we put our best toys where you could see them?" She gestured behind her, where Zexon could see humans working frantically at control stations that looked like they'd been designed by madmen and built by lunatics. "See, the thing about humans is we have this wonderful talent for creating terrible things when properly motivated. And nothing motivates us quite like someone threatening to enslave our entire species." Dr. Nakamura appeared beside her, his lab coat singed and his hair standing on end. "We've been preparing for this scenario for over 2 centuries. Admiral, ever since we detected your Galactic Supremacy Council enslaving the Centaurans, we've been developing weapons specifically designed to fight enemies with superior conventional technology. The beautiful part," added Dr. Chun, "is that we don't have to follow the same rules you do. Your technology is based on working within the laws of physics. Ours is based on convincing those laws to take a vacation." A new voice joined the transmission, this one belonging to a man who sounded like he was having the time of his life. "Colonel Jackson here, commanding the 1st Impossible Infantry. Admiral, I'd like you to meet my boys." The display shifted to show space near one of the human orbital platforms. Zexon stared in disbelief as hundreds of figures in environmental suits launched themselves directly at his ships. No vehicles, no propulsion systems visible. Just humans, flying through vacuum with nothing but determination and what appear to be modified mining equipment. Are your troops attacking my dreadnoughts with hand tools?" Zexon asked faintly. "Mining lasers, mostly," Colonel Jackson confirmed cheerfully, though Jenkins there has a plasma cutter he's quite fond of, and Rodriguez insisted on bringing her molecular disassembler. "These boys have been mining asteroids for 30 years. They know how to take things apart." Through his telescopic displays, Zexon watched individual humans land on the hulls of ships the size of cities and begin systematically dismantling them. Hull plating peeled away like orange skin. Massive gun batteries simply fell off. Entire sections of vessel separated and drifted away. "How are they surviving in vacuum?" he whispered. "Oh, we solved that little problem decades ago," Dr. Nakamura replied casually. "Bioengineering. Every human born in the last 50 years has been genetically modified for space operations. Enhanced oxygen efficiency, radiation resistance, pressure adaptation. We can work in hard vacuum for hours without protection. But why? Why would you modify your entire species?" President Chin appeared on screen again, and this time Zexon noticed details he had missed before. The man's eyes held a hard gleam that spoke of decades of careful planning. His hands, when he gestured, showed scars that indicated extensive manual labor. His voice carried the weight of absolute conviction. Because we knew you were coming, Admiral. Perhaps not you specifically, but someone like you. Someone who would look at our little blue world and see only resources to be exploited and populations to be enslaved. Behind Chun, displays showed tactical information that made Zexon's blood run cold. Population statistics, resource allocation charts, industrial capacity reports, all dated decades before first contact. We've spent 200 years preparing for this war. Every human child born since 2089 has been raised with the understanding that someday we would face an enemy among the stars. Every scientific advance, every technological breakthrough, every social reform has been designed with one goal: to ensure that when that enemy came, we would be ready. You're insane, Zexon breathed. President Chin smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Admiral, we're the species that invented mutually assured destruction and then decided it wasn't quite destructive enough. We're the people who looked at nuclear weapons and thought, these are nice, but what if we could make them worse? We spent our entire recorded history finding bigger and more creative ways to kill each other. And now, General Martinez added, we finally have someone else to kill. The tactical display showed Zexon's fleet status. In the past 20 minutes, he had lost 60% of his ships. Not destroyed, not captured, lost. Some had been edited out of existence. Others had been turned into modern art installations. Several had been disassembled by teams of humans who treated kilometer-long warships like particularly challenging jigsaw puzzles. His remaining vessels were scattered across the solar system, trying desperately to regroup while being hunted by weapons that treated the laws of physics as mild suggestions. Sir, Communications Officer Vree said quietly, we're receiving a transmission from the Council homeworld. Admiral Zexon felt a moment of relief. Finally, reinforcements. The Council's response fleets would arrive and restore order to this madness. Put it through, he ordered. The image that appeared on screen was not what he expected. Instead of fleet coordinates or tactical updates, he found himself looking at Supreme Admiral Karoth, the Council's highest military commander, sitting in what appeared to be an escape pod. Zexon, Karoth said, his voice hollow with defeat. Where are you? Karoth? I'm at the human homeworld, as ordered. Where's the relief fleet? What relief fleet? Karoth laughed bitterly. Zexon, there is no relief fleet. There is no Council homeworld. There is no Galactic Supremacy Council. The display behind Karoth shifted to show tactical readouts from across the galaxy. Red indicators covered every major system. Battle reports scrolled past faster than Zexon could read them. The humans didn't just declare war on your fleet, you magnificent idiot. They declared war on our entire civilization. Every world, every station, every ship in Council space is under attack simultaneously. That's impossible, Zexon protested. They don't have faster-than-light travel. They don't need it, Karoth replied. They've been here all along. The screen filled with images that defied comprehension. Human saboteurs emerging from positions they had held for decades. Sleeper agents activating in the heart of Council territory. Weapons that had been disguised as infrastructure, revealing their true purpose. Trade ships, Karoth continued. Mining expeditions. Cultural exchange programs, scientific survey missions. For the past century, everything we thought were harmless human civilian ventures were actually military preparation operations. Dr. Nakamura appeared on screen beside President Chun, and his kindly expression had been replaced by something far more calculating. Did you really think we would limit ourselves to our own solar system, Admiral? We've been exploring the galaxy for 200 years, hiding in plain sight, cataloging your weaknesses, positioning our assets, and waiting for someone to give us an excuse. Every human freighter captain who applied for Council trade permits, General Martinez added, every human scientist who requested permission to study in Council libraries, every human diplomat who attended Council social functions. All of them were gathering intelligence and preparing for this day. President Chin leaned forward. The moment you transmitted your surrender demand, every human in Council space received activation orders. Miners became saboteurs. Traders became fleet commanders. Scientists became weapons specialists. We've been living among you for generations, Dr. Chin continued. Learning your languages, studying your cultures, mapping your infrastructure, and figuring out exactly how to tear it all down. On the display, Zexon watched the impossible unfold. Human vessels, revealed as far more advanced than anyone had suspected, engaged Council fleets across 50 star systems. Weapons appeared from concealment on worlds that had hosted human populations for decades. Entire sectors went dark as critical infrastructure suffered precisely targeted failures. The mining colonies on Zirian 7, Koroth said numbly, they weren't mining. They were building something vast. When it activated, he shuddered. What did it do? Zexon asked, though he dreaded the answer. It ate the entire system, not destroyed it. Ate it. The planets, the moons, the star itself. Gone. All of it converted into some kind of energy that the humans collected and transmitted somewhere else. Jessica Wong appeared on screen, and Zexon recognized her as the young graduate student from the earlier transmission. Now she wore the uniform of a starship captain. Oh, that would be my dissertation project, she said brightly. Stellar mass-to-energy conversion using controlled black hole formation. We've been testing it on uninhabited systems for the past 30 years. Zirian 7 was our first full-scale demonstration. She gestured proudly at displays showing energy readings that hurt to contemplate. We've converted 47 star systems into pure energy over the past 6 hours. The power requirements for our anti-council operations are really quite substantial. Anti-council operations? Zexon whispered. Oh, yes, President Chin replied. Admiral, did you really think this was just about your surrender demand? This is about the Galactic Supremacy Council's entire approach to interstellar relations. The display shifted to show historical records. Hundreds of species conquered, billions enslaved, entire civilizations erased. We've been monitoring your activities since 2156, General Martinez continued. We know what you do to species that resist. We know what happens to populations that submit. We've seen the slave worlds. We've documented the genocides. We've cataloged the extinctions. And we decided, Dr. Nakamura added with scientific precision, that such an organization should not be permitted to continue existing. President Chin stood up from behind his desk, and Zexon finally understood what he was seeing. This wasn't a political leader making wartime decisions. This was the elected representative of a species that had voted unanimously to commit genocide. So congratulations, Admiral Zexon. You didn't just declare war on humanity. You provided us with the legal and moral justification to eliminate the Galactic Supremacy Council entirely. Every species you conquered, General Martinez said, every world you've enslaved, every civilization you've destroyed, they all get justice today. And the beautiful part, Dr. Chin added, is that you're going to watch it happen. Alarm screamed throughout Zexon's ship as the final phase of the human attack began. Through his displays, he watched weapons beyond his comprehension systematically dismantle not just his fleet, but his entire civilization. Stars went out. Planets cracked open like eggs. Space itself seemed to rebel against the Council's presence. You're monsters, he breathed. Margaret Thompson appeared one final time on his screen, still sitting in her rocking chair, still knitting her impossible patterns. Oh, sweetie, she said in that terrifying grandmotherly voice. We're not the monsters in this story. We're the exterminators. And you, she continued, her needles clicking rhythmically, are the bugs. The screen went dark. Admiral Zexon had time for one final thought before his ship, his fleet, and his entire species were edited out of existence. Perhaps he should have done more research before threatening humanity. The universe, it turned out, was a much more dangerous place than anyone had suspected, especially when you made the mistake of threatening its deadliest predators. In the end, the Galactic Supremacy Council learned the most important lesson in the galaxy. Never pick a fight with a species that considers extinction a hobby. The war lasted exactly 8 hours and 37 minutes. The humans won, and they were just getting started.